आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the nation's sharpest opinion, let me state the indisputable facts as of this evening on the Iran versus Israel and Iran versus America situation. Well, Donald Trump has been too quick to announce a ceasefire. He said, congratulations to everyone. It's been a fully agreed by between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire. He wrote, and then he wrote to Iran, to Israel, he said, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. This is very comic, very, very comic. I mean, why does Trump behave like this? Why does he behave in such a comic way? Why is he issuing instructions to Israel on social media? Is this the way you are to behave? You want to tell Netanyahu to give certain instructions to his Air Force, pick up the phone and talk. Why make a global embarrassment of yourself and your nation? This is not making America great again. He's making America into a joke. Ladies and gentlemen, it's still a full-blown war in the Middle East. Iran threatened to block the Strait of Hormuz. We'll have to see whether they do that. If they do that, it's going to be a dangerous turning point. Iran has escalated the conflict by attacking US bases in Qatar and Iraq. And America has been able to do nothing but sue for peace. This was going to be about Iran suing for peace, America suing for peace. There was panic this morning in Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, all shut their airspace. Major airlines scrambled with dozens of flights diverted or cancelled. I can certainly say one thing. Trump is not going to get any global peace. He wants the peace prize. If there's an opposite of the peace prize, if there's a prize for escalating violence across the world, it should be given to Donald J. Trump, because wherever he pokes his nose, he leads to an absolute mess. The IAEA's report suggests that the US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites were highly ineffective and not required. But at the same time, this war has also been a big setback for Iran. That's an unquestionable fact. Fordo, which was shielding feet above, hundreds of feet under the ground in the middle of the mountains, we still don't know whether it's been able to shelter its nuclear stuff. Israel's defense minister has warned Ayatollah Khomeini that he will meet the same fate as Saddam Hussein. Ayatollah Khomeini has not been able to make one public appearance in the last few days, which is a mark of weakness. So the question on the debate tonight is this: is there an end goal for itself in all of this? Is there an end goal? I want to know, is there an outright victory for anyone? Is anyone winning this? Is anyone winning this? Everyone's claiming they're winning this, but who's won this and who's in sight of victory? Let's debate.
Israel and Iran came to me almost simultaneously and said, "Peace." I knew the time was now. The world and the Middle East are the real winners. Just 2.5 hours after the statement by Donald Trump, the ceasefire was violated. For a ceasefire that was never, Iran struck the largest city in southern Israel, Beersheba.
This was just one of the places where the Iranian ballistic rockets hit. This place is one of the studential areas in Tel Aviv, and you can see how huge is destruction here all around. All this building is completely destroyed here behind me, and this was the target of Iran.
An embarrassed Trump, losing his cool, fired the F-bomb on live television.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
No one listened to Trump, neither Iran nor Israel, and the fragile truce was in tatters. And this was Trump's latest failure in a series of failed businesses.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people, and they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a great job.
In the past 48 hours, President Donald Trump ordered US warplanes to drop massive bombs on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Tehran retaliated by attacking one of the largest US air bases in the Middle East.
سپاه پاسداران انقلاب اسلامی با رمز مقدس یا ابا عبدالله الحسین علیه السلام در عملیات بشارت فتح پایگاه تروریستی آمریکا در العدید قطر را هدف تهاجم ویرانگر و قدرتمند موشکی قرار.
Trump wants credit for a ceasefire, but who won the war? Is it Israel, who says all objectives of Operation Rising Lion are complete?
בהמשך להנחיית הדרג המדיני, הפסקת האש נכנסה הבוקר לתוקפה. הבוקר ניתן לומר, צה"ל עמד בצורה מלאה בכל היעדים שהוגדרו במבצע עם כלבי. הרמטכ"ל הנחה את צה"ל לשמר רמת דריכות גבוהה ומוכנות לתגובה עוצמתית על כל הפרה של הפסקת האש. זאת תוך הדגשת שמירה על מתח מבצעי גבוה ושימור כוננות בכל החזיתות ולאורך כל הגבולות.
Is it Iran who struck the US bases in Qatar? Or is it the United States, who could not even make a ceasefire last for a day after claiming that it had brokered peace? Who's won and who is lost?
Who has won this war? Every side is claiming victory. Every alliance is claiming victory. Iran is claiming victory. Israel and America are claiming victory. But there are countries like China who are unimpressed with what Trump has been able to do. The conflict is not over. This morning, an American military base was attacked, and Trump did nothing. The only thing Trump did after an American military base, which is the head of the American Central Command, was hit by a missile, was say that I'm doing nothing, we should have a ceasefire. And that's not a very strong situation to be in. And then the ceasefire he announced appears to have collapsed as well. So I ask once again, who's won this war, if anybody has? I'd like to start with Beijing, with Victor Gao. Victor Gao, and I'd like to welcome Maxim Kuznetsov, chairman of the Russia-Asia Business Council, Professor Asif Daudi, faculty member of the King Abdulaziz University, Saurabh Shukla, our diplomatic consulting editor, Alison Federica, director of analysis at Geopolitical Futures, Terry Newman, Israeli entrepreneur, and Danny Pfefferman, former major of the IDF and Middle East 24 co-founder. My first guest speaking tonight is Victor Gao. Who's won the war? Has anyone won the war?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, the United States and Israel joined hands from the very beginning in launching this act of aggression against Iran, which is a sovereign country with territorial integrity, a full member of the United Nations. So this war is a war of aggression, and Iran has full justification to defend itself. By today, I think Israel has lost, the United States has lost, the United States has lost its credibility and the reliability, and they are suffering the consequences of this war of aggression. Now, Iran also lost a lot. They suffered a lot of casualties and costs, etc. But Iran proved to be a strong country to defend itself at any cost. And I think by today, the world is fully convinced that Israel has now won. Its Iron Dome is completely a joke. Its David Sling is a joke in front of all these massive attacks by the missiles and the drones of Iran. And Israel should really learn a lesson. Israel should embrace peace rather than agitating for war, and never should be allowed to launch a war of aggression against any other country. And while Israel and the United States are accusing Iran of developing a nuclear weapon, it is Israel which has violated all the international laws by possessing a nuclear weapon for years, if not for decades, and has threatened using a nuclear weapon against other countries. It is time for mankind to urge Israel to abandon its nuclear weapon, to really make sure that the Middle East will become a region of nuclear-free zone. This will really enable all the other countries, including Iran, never try to build another weapon, and let's really guarantee permanent peace for the Middle East as a whole.
Okay, Victor, so, I would like a response from our Israeli friends and from Alison to that introductory comment from you. Terry, maybe you want to go first. The sense one is getting is that with the continued Iranian strikes today and the Trump's appeal for a ceasefire, it's not as complete a victory for America and Israel as one would have imagined a couple of days back. Your thoughts, please.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank your Chinese colleague for confirming that Iran was building a bomb, because up until now, Iran and China have been denying that Iran was trying to build a bomb. They were claiming it was for medical research purposes. So at least we've got that out of the way, and we've established that fact that Iran has been lying to the international community for decades now about doing this. So thank you for that. Listen, if you compare where Israel and Iran were 2 weeks ago to where Israel and Iran are today, there's no doubt that this is an incredible military campaign carried out by the Israeli military. We have managed to set back the Iranian nuclear weapons project by months, if not years. We have destroyed large parts of their ballistic missile program. We have destroyed their main proxies in Yemen. We've weakened them there. We've destroyed them in Lebanon, in Syria, Iraq. They're on the back foot at the moment. And Iran's military strategy of protecting itself from the north with Syria and Hezbollah has failed. In the south, it hasn't really been able to respond. Trump's response to the pathetic few missiles that were telegraphed and coordinated between Iran and Qatar in advance, and they only did it on Qatar because they knew that Qatar wouldn't respond. He said that was very weak and pathetic, but thanks for letting us know in advance. Iran has nowhere to go now. And the fact that now China and Russia are standing up and saying, we're going to take you to America, to the UN Security Council. Well, where were they before the American strikes? America said they were going to, take 2 weeks to think about it. And in the end, they took about 2 days. But Russia and China were silent. All of a sudden, after the attacks, they speak out. That's not a real friend. That's not a real friend. So if it is friends like China, I would rather, choose other friends. I think that Donald Trump has come out of this a friend of Israel, a friend of Iran, and a friend of everybody else in the Middle East. And he has postured to China and to Russia saying, if you try anything going forward, you'll see what has happened. So the biggest winner is Trump. Second is Israel. And the third is the Middle East and the world.
Okay, let's get Maxim from Moscow. Let's get a view from Moscow to this situation where the ceasefire has at least already collapsed. I don't think there's a ceasefire today, Maxim. So I think the biggest loser here is Donald Trump. But who's winning this? Who's won this? Has anyone won this? Is it too early to claim victory? Maxim.
So in my point of view, nobody wants in this conflict because, both Israel and Iran has serious damage to their own infrastructure. And Donald Trump, after attack to Iran, has some problem with Congress, have some problem with European allies in NATO, and it means that position of US becomes weaker than previously. And as you know, Donald Trump was nominated both to impeachment and to Nobel Prize for Peace. It is kind of a joke. But the most critical situation is that Israel starts send missile to Iran. It was aggression, but there are no sanctions to Israel for attack of sovereign state like Iran, and it is also unacceptable in my point of view.
Yeah, but at the same time, this war has been a massive setback for Iran. And besides words, Professor Asif Dawoodi, besides words, what has Iran got? These are all fair weather friends. They've not really done anything for Iran. Iran's nuclear program is destroyed. Fordo was struck.
We don't know clearly because some stock of uranium was driven from the previous place, and we don't know if it was destroyed or not. And both Trump, both Israel said that they stopped this.
Is that a matter
program,
of concern?
But we don't know clearly.
So Alison, I'd like to take this to you. The Iranians and the pro-Iranians are saying that America's strategic objectives have not been completely met because there's still a question mark over whether the nuclear facilities have been completely destroyed. The language has changed from completely destroying to weakening. How do you read it?
So the U.S. had an intention of ending things with Iran's nuclear program prior to the war that we're talking about now. I would caution people to say I'm not sure that the fighting is over. The ceasefire broke down. There's no sense of what's going to happen next. Both sides are severely constrained in terms of what they can bring to bear in terms of continued fighting. As for the U.S., just a few weeks ago, they were talking to Tehran about trying to come up with some negotiated settlement over the nuclear program. So it's a question of, has enough damage been done to slow things down? And I think right now they're still assessing that, but the general idea is that it is less capable now than it was 3 days ago. In that sense, the U.S. has achieved what it's wanted because it can bring Iran ideally to the negotiation table again. And ideally, if they can convince the Israelis, hey, this nuclear threat is no longer a threat to you, have that resolution that they're looking for. Ultimately, the U.S. main strategic goal is to avoid getting drawn back into a major conflict in the Middle East. And one of the things that they have done, which is going to put the Trump administration into a potentially difficult position moving forward is they played their strongest hand. The U.S. credibility question has been brought up, and that is true. The U.S. and Trump especially talk a really big game, and so to some extent there was a question of, will the U.S. actually act? Because we see the U.S. pulling back in so many places. By dropping those bombs, the administration tried to convey the idea, yes, don't just take our rhetoric as empty. We do plan on acting on these intentions to try to regain that credibility question that some people had. But now it becomes the question of, if fighting continues, what next? What cards do the U.S. have to play without getting into that messy area of, do we end up in another war again? Because that brings a lot of political issues on the home front as well.
Well, I mean, at least as of now, there is no end to the fighting, Alison. So I agree with you. It is too easy to say it's called off. Professor Asif Daudi, is Iran going to call it off? Is Khamenei going to call it off? Because some people are saying if he calls it off, it's like surrendering.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Iran is not going to say that it's calling it off. Because the way they are retaliating, look at the statement, look at the aggression, look at the, kind of energy they have shown, which perhaps Israel and America earlier underestimated, and that's the result that there is a ceasefire. This is what, as per the media reports, that we can see. Whatever is the situation, whoever is the winner, that is another question, and it can be debated. But the best part is that from the dangerous escalation that we have been seeing actually for the past 12 days, at least there is a de-escalation and there is a ceasefire, which I personally welcome, because I believe that only 3Ds is that can be the solution of such situations, that is dialogue, diplomacy and de-escalation. And this is going to happen. And whoever is doing it, that is another question. Like, President Trump will say Trump card to be the ceasefire specialist, saying that, I'm the one who mediated, they approached me and they approached us, and then finally there is a ceasefire, and there are violations as well at the same time. This is the media reports that we can assess the situation this way. But being the ceasefire specialist, this could be also a kind of face saving, because as I said, that Iran's strength was perhaps underestimated, and the way, it's not me or the fellow panelist who is saying that, it's a violation of the international laws. Also, if you look at the statement from the General Secretary of United Nations, Mr. Guterres, also said that it's a threat to the international peace and security. So having said that, it's a kind of, at least there is a kind of something unfolding in a way that there could be some sort of peace in future. But we cannot assume that at this moment. It's too early to say that who is the winner, who is the loser. But yes, Iran came out as a very stronger party, and this is what the world is saying.
Why do you say so? You're all saying Iran came out as a stronger party. On what basis? I mean, let's get a little real. Apart from the rhetoric and for the fact that America is calling for a ceasefire, how do you say Iran has come out as a stronger party? And let me play some facts before you. Dan is on the debate. Dan is on. I want Dan and Victor Gao also on the debate. See, the entire military brass of Iran is finished. General Shadmani, General Bagheri, General Hossein Salami, General Ghulam Ali Rashid, Brigadier General Amir Ali Hajizde, General Mohammad Kazemi, General Hassan Mohaki, General Mehrabi, General Rabbani, the Deputy Head of Operations for the Armed Forces General Staff. They've all been killed. They're not there. The entire Khomeini inner circle is gone. The nuclear bases have been attacked. The B-2 bombers went and came back. I just want to understand the logic behind saying Iran has come out strong. You want to feel that way? I want Dan to come in here, because China is also saying this. Iran has come out strong. How is Iran come out strong, Victor?
Respond to this.
No, let me hear from Dan, and then we have that debate. Dan.
Right.
Let me say
I'm smiling and laughing to this, as is our friend here from China, who's also laughing about this, because everyone realizes these talking points that Iran somehow won are absolutely ridiculous. Look, the truth is in war, nobody's a winner. War needs to be a last resort. And from an Israeli perspective, this was absolutely the last resort. But this is being framed by our revisionist friends here across the aisle as some kind of Israeli aggression. This is a war that started on October 7th when Iran's proxies launched an unprovoked invasion of Israel, hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles from Lebanon, from Syria, and from Yemen. Israel had nothing to do with these countries. And then Iran itself, on two separate occasions, launched massive barrages of ballistic missiles at Israel. From Israel's perspective, this is a continuation. This is a battle within a war that was began by Iran and its proxies on October 7th. This is not an isolated incident. I'm glad to see that it's over. Israel set very limited goals of pushing back. I don't think it can completely destroy, but pushing back Iran's nuclear program and ballistic missile programs, which are only intended for regional aggression. I think it should be absolutely clear to everyone. There's a reason why Iran doesn't need to have Iron Dome, because Israel doesn't target Iranian civilians. And the only casualties in Israel, the 30 casualties in Israel from this, are all civilians, because only civilian population centers, only residential buildings were targeted by Iran. There's a reason why Iranians felt very safe sitting in their homes, because when Israel attacked areas that were even near civilian areas, they told people to leave. They gave them advanced warning. It's a shame here. I don't know who the winners are. I know Israel achieved massive quiet here, massive quiet for at least the next decade for the region. I think the region is a big winner here, despite the short-term upheaval, and war is a short-term upheaval. I think the Americans achieved a major victory with a minimum investment, and I think that's massive from an American perspective here. But the biggest losers, unfortunately, are the people of Iran, because they have to watch, the fantastic and talented people of Iran have to watch as their fanatical regime invests anywhere between $500 billion to $1 trillion of Iran's natural resources and all of its ingenuity, not in developing economy and technology and human development, as happens in Israel, as its neighbors in the Gulf, in the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia are doing. But it has to watch it take all of these resources and turn it into a nuclear weapons program that's going nowhere and now has been destroyed, ballistic missile programs that have now been mostly destroyed and only used to terrorize the region. And Iran would be wise to join the productive family of nations here and take all of this human ingenuity and capital and talent that they have in that wonderful country of theirs and turn it to good uses, and rather than throw it down the black hole of war, of threatening Israel's destruction day after day, calling it the little Satan, calling America the great Satan, and continuing to promote this forever revolution, exporting this revolution against its neighbors, against Israel, against the West. This is just an absolute waste of human talent, of human capital, and only ends up leading to a lot of unfortunately dead civilians in the region in the process.
Okay, 1 minute. Before I go to Saurabh, Victor, why didn't China help Iran? You see, the feeling one has had is, and let me explain this to you. When India, when 1 minute, just 1 minute. See, Victor, allow me to explain my position. I know the Sun Tzu philosophy: we must win without fighting a war. And that is the principal reason today why China is a country without any combat experience, because you're not good in combat. When you got into combat with India, we gave you a bloody nose in Doklam. But when we counter-attacked Pakistan, and we hit their, their air bases, and we hit their military bases, 4 days we punished the Pakistanis. You used to say we are the all-weather friends of Pakistan. You didn't lift a finger for Pakistan. Good for you, you didn't, but you didn't lift a finger for Pakistan. So your all-weather friendship went for a toss when India attacked all these 20 places in Pakistan with huge, fantastic BrahMos ballistic missiles. China did nothing. I'm only placing this, Terry. China, Terry, is all talk, no action. Similarly,
they're a master of
similarly, yeah, absolutely. Similarly, in the case of Iran, everybody knows where the money is coming for the Houthis, for the Hamas, for the Hezbollah. And after the October 7th attack, you try to give a wishy-washy statement. You see, the problem with China, Saurabh, is that they have an army that cannot fight. For every Indian soldier, you need 5 Chinese soldiers. And once you shout at the Chinese, they run away. They're not a fighting force. They're not a fighting army. And everyone knows that they have no combat experience. They keep talking about Taiwan, and Taiwan does boo at them, and they run away, Let me complete my statement, my very elaborate statement. If I'm pricking your conscience, that's your problem, Victor. But I am pricking your conscience, but I will have my say. Let me complete. Victor, the Iranians placed their faith on you. One minute. The Iranians placed their faith on you. The Iranians said that if the Israelis hit us, China is going to come and save us. China will save us. China will send its fighter jets to save us. Why didn't you step in for Iran? Why didn't you step in for Iran?
India lost the aero battle.
Why did you not step in for Iran? We know what we did to the Pakistanis. You didn't step in. You didn't step in. Victor.
Let's go back to Iran and Israel. Israel's massive assassination of military and government leaders in Iran.
No. Okay. One minute. Just wait a minute. Victor, let's assume. Victor, listen. Don't step in anyone. I'm dealing with Victor. Victor, listen to me. I like you, Victor, as a person. As a person, I like you. My question is, Victor, it's very bad. Assassination is very bad. I agree with you. But now my point to you. See, and please hear me, Victor. You financed Iran and you told them to give the money to the Houthis, the Hamas, the Hezbollah. You wanted to fight a war in the Middle East through other means. The Iranians thought, Saurabh, that when we get into trouble, then China will come in for us. That was the whole calculation. But when Israel and then America bombed the living daylights out of Iran, China just looked the other way. They issued a statement and did nothing. How reliable is which country in the world will now ever depend on China after what they've done to Iran? Very bad. I actually am more impressed with the Iranian determination to fight than anything else.
Are you finished?
Victor, nobody trusts you. You're an untrustworthy country.
Finished? Listen, China is the largest trading nation with more than 140 nations in the world.
Don't stop threatening the world.
Including Iran. But China does not support military activities. China condemned
There you are. We don't support military activities.
China condemned the United States for the joint action of aggression against Iran. That's the really very noble and justified
But Victor, your condemnation does not help.
China opposes state-sponsored terrorism. China condemned the
You did not even help Russia.
History will record.
You did not even help Russia.
And I hope you will wake up.
You tried to gain in trade from Russia. You did not even help Russia. India helped Russia. India stepped in for Russia. You didn't help Russia. You didn't help Iran. You helped nobody. Did you help Bangladesh when the regime change happened? Did you help Sheikh Hasina when she was threatened by Joe Biden? No.
Promotes peace.
You don't. What peace? You don't step in for any country who you promise.
You are doing a rebel.
Okay, we'll get Terry and Saurabh.
Then India lost the war. Two things. Let me start with this, sir, by saying that you are misinforming here. China today is one of the biggest bullies in town. At least you try to be. Ask countries in the Indo-Pacific region, ask countries who have boundary disputes with you, you try to bully people, you will not be able to do that. That's one. Secondly, India did not lose the air power war. Pakistan did because of the cheap Chinese jets that you supplied to them, which were made on stolen technology which you could not master. That's the second fact. The third fact is you left Iran in the lurch.
You left Iran in the lurch.
You are always playing a double game here. You wanted to see which way the war is tilting, and you saw that by the big decisive action by the US, Iranians had it, and you completely left them in the lurch. You play this game, whether it is Pakistan, whether with Iran, you egg them on and then step back. That's a Chinese philosophy. That's your philosophy to make sure that the world is engaged in wars so you can profit. You were talking about trade deals. That's what you do. Ask countries in Africa, ask countries in Latin America, what are the games that you're playing? You're stealing technology. You are trying to foment tensions and create these wars. You are the country which is behind these wars, which the world must realize, sir, and stop misleading the world. Because
you need to speak softly.
India-Pakistan
you need to
conflict,
speak with
Chinese duplicity
gentility rather than such
and the world is seeing
loud
your
voice.
duplicity. That
Let's focus on Israel's war of aggression against Iran.
With countries, but you will not succeed. The fact remains that the world has seen through the Chinese duplicity, and even Iran has realized, Russia has realized that China cannot be a reliable friend. It's merely a trader trying to, promote its goods. But the world has seen through your charade and your duplicity and your
China is so proud to be a trader. China is the largest trading partner. That's our pride. If you can do it, you be the largest trader.
China cannot be the peddler of wars. That's what you're trying to do. Whether it's the war between India and Pakistan, you were the ones who were supplying all the hardware. You were the ones who were egging the Pakistanis silently to say that go on. And when it comes to Iran, you promised them that, you go on after the decisive strike, you completely back down. Admit today on national TV, on this global network, that
my point is very simple. As a lesson. See, first of all, Victor, I'm no fan of Donald Trump, okay? But I would at least say this, that Donald Trump, even if he's foolhardy, has done what he promised. Now, problem is he talks too much, he tweets too much, he puts out too much on social media. He is his worst enemy, that's different. But, today, it's not me. The whole world is asking one question today, Terry, that when, Iran, every country makes geopolitical aspirations, geopolitical games, Big countries, we have partners. India has Croatia, we have Armenia. We have great relationship with Israel. You obviously expect that if you're going to be under attack, your friends will stand up for you. Right? In this case, China did not.
And we do, and we are very grateful to all of our allies around the world. And I think if we go back to the actual question, which is who has won this war, we will know when the peace treaty is signed between Israel and Saudi Arabia, because this war that was declared by Iran on the 7th of October 2023 via its proxies was done specifically to stop the IMEC project, which was declared in your country, Arnab, in Delhi in September of 2023. Now, the IMEC, the Indian, Middle East and European Economic Corridor, was the American and Western and democratic world response to the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And when the Chinese realized that they couldn't stop it, they brokered a peace treaty between Saudi Arabia and Iran in March 2023 to try and stop it, but they didn't succeed. When they realized it was going to go ahead anyway, after the declaration in Delhi with your Prime Minister Modi and Biden and the head of the EU and MBS, they decided they had to stop somehow Saudi-Israeli peace treaty and normalization. That is why they unleashed this war. They are now paying the price for this war, and the true victory will happen when Israel and Saudi Arabia sign on that peace treaty, and the IMEC connecting India, the Middle East and Europe via an incredible trade, security and infrastructure corridor will happen.
Now, I totally agree with you on that. You know what I had felt always. And this announcement, by the way, of the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, which will change the entire dynamics of global trade, entire dynamics, and it's going to make the Middle East very rich, very wealthy. It's going to make India very strong, very wealthy, very important. And it's also good for the economic integration of Europe. Can you imagine Middle East, India and Europe, three large parts of the world, very wealthy, very connected with trade, very strong. Who loses out, Terry? Let's apply our mind tonight when we are watching this program. Who gains? You gain, I gain, Europe gains, Middle East gains, Saudi Arabia gains, Israel gains, and of course, India gains. Who loses? Who loses, Terry? Who loses?
I'll tell you who loses.
Who loses?
Iran loses, China loses, and Russia loses. And what a surprise. Who are the three main countries that have been fighting
Okay,
together?
now let me ask another
during
question
this war?
from there. Let me ask another question, Terry. When did the attack... Now, I'm going to say something very important. And I know some people will be very angry. When did the announcement of the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor happen? Which our great Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it happened in the second week of September, in the middle of, I think, the G20 meeting in Delhi, right? 2023.
Correct.
Right. Now, Terry, when did the Hamas, which is an Iranian-backed outfit, and Iran is backed with China, when did the Hamas carry out the attack on 1,300 innocent Israelis and carry out the brutal murder of Israelis and gang rape of Israeli young women, abduction of Israeli children and grandmothers? It was on the 7th of October.
It happened exactly
7th of
4 weeks
October,
later.
yes. And now,
we know that, I should just add, Arnab, we know that in between there was a meeting in Beirut of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards with representatives of Hamas, the Houthis and Hezbollah. And we also know of an increase of ballistic missiles being sent from Iran to Yemen in that 4-week period.
Now, when did Iran get drawn into this? Which is why I would say to any country getting drawn as a military proxy or sub-military proxy of China, be very careful. They're going to use you and then drop you like a hot potato, not even look your way. The Hamas carried out the massacre 29 days after the announcement of IMEC. But let me tell you this, Victor, IMEC will happen. IMEC is happening. Saudi Arabia, UAE, great nations, Israel, Europe, Italy, India, all are going to be connected. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. But people will ask you that if you set up the Iranians for this, did you stand up for them when they were being bombed? When there were threats to eliminate Ayatollah Khamenei? Where was China? Where was China then? Where were you looking?
Let's talk about IMEC. Chinese economy is 5 times as big as India. Has India really built good quality highways, railways in India?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. And by the way, you're no longer, you're no longer 5 times as big. By the way, listen to me. By the way, you're no longer 5 times as big. And in purchasing power parity terms, India is a $17 trillion economy. In purchasing power parity terms, we are growing twice as fast as you. Apple is moving out of China and coming to India. Manufacturing across the world is moving out of China and coming back to India. Don't fool yourself. We have more allies in the world. Our military is stronger than you, and our aspirations are greater than yours. You can't even land on the moon, but we do. But we do.
Let's talk about IMEC.
I mean, you talk about one sector where you're leading.
Facility by moving things onto trucks and trains.
Now listen to me. Don't you tell me why did the Hamas attack Israel? Why did the Hamas attack Israel 29 days after Modi announced IMEC?
Download them onto ships again, move them across the Mediterranean.
You're losing your.
Upload them again onto trucks and trains.
What trucks and trains are you talking? You're losing you're getting confused.
That the chief engineer never has done infrastructure and connectivity at all.
IMEC will happen. IMEC will happen.
But the way it is designed is a complete disaster from the very beginning.
IMEC will happen.
Let's hope. Do you want to bet your house on IMEC?
I will. I'm not a gambler like you. You're a gambler. I'm not a gambler. I'm a wise thinking Indian journalist. I'm asking you, why did Hamas attack Israel? This whole Middle East situation, what was the need? What did you gain? To put the Middle East in turmoil?
I think the people in the
Why did you do this?
are tired of the expansionist movement of Israel. And for Israel to indulge that they can sign a peace treaty with Saudi Arabia is, as of today, a pipe dream.
Okay, I would like Terry and Dan to respond to you on that, because you don't like peace clearly. You want to create some volatile situation. You want people to fight each other. I don't know why. What do you gain?
Strongest force for peace, Arnab. You are talking about.
I'm not saying a thing, but Terry, you see.
Paradoxes.
Yeah, please.
You are laying into IMEC. First of all, the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, has been a disaster. Right, and more countries are now seeing that wherever you go, you're causing problems. And you should not have backed the Iranians. You should not have told them to go and release Iran to kill over 1,000 Israelis. That was a mistake, and you will pay a price for that mistake because as America has stood strong with.
You are even talking about Israel peace treaty with Saudi Arabia. Talk to the Saudis. Talk to the Saudis. Do they really want to sign a peace treaty with Israel? With your aggression against Iran? No.
Actually, the Saudis have said thank you to us. And if you listen to the way the Saudis have responded to the Iranian attack on Qatar, it was far stronger than the way they responded to the Israeli attack on Iran, where in Iran we took out all of the military echelons of both the army and of the Revolutionary Guards, the people that have been terrorizing Saudi Arabia for decades, the people that have been funding and arming the Houthis who have been attacking Saudi Arabia from the south. So actually Saudi Arabia said thank you very much, and it will bring us closer to a more sane, sensible and prosperous Middle East. And I hope that China will be wise enough to join in that story, because it is a story that can be good for humanity. Please join.
Israel should talk more about peace. Israel should not talk about war after war after war after destruction.
Dan Pfefferman, Dan.
Talking about war will come your way. That's the philosophy. I hope you will.
Why do you want to get others to fight your wars? If you want to and you have the courage, why don't you fight a war yourself?
China is a defender of peace.
You can't fight a war. I mean, you have a non-combatant army. You have a non-combatant army. You have a non-combatant army. You know that. You never won a war, never fight a war. You have no experience.
Remember what happened in 1962?
Wow, yeah, but this is not 1962. You want to try? This is not 1962. You want to try? You want to try? Let's talk about India giving you a bloody nose in Galwan and Doklam. Want to remember what we did to you 2 years back? You want to remember when the Chinese went back crying? Saurabh, let's remind them. When we beat you up and you cried, you want to be reminded? When you had to admit how many Chinese soldiers were killed. India is a tough country. India is a tough country. India is the toughest country with the most combat experience. Okay? You understand? You're a non-combatant army. You didn't even support Russia.
When you refuse to recognize the reality, the whole world knows India lost the 62.
Go back to 62. Go look at now.
The whole world knows that whole world knows about the Chinese duplicity. The whole world knows about how you steal secrets, how you have been trying to foment these wars because of your own thing. Everybody knows. You know, you were rattled by the fact that Apple was investing in India. You were rattled by the fact that Quad was doubling down on China's bullying in Southwest Pacific, and you egged on. You egged on Pakistanis. You egged
on the Pakistanis? No, I'll tell you one. Saurabh, 1 minute. I'll say one thing now. Victor, I'll only speak after you finish, and you must allow me this. Victor, you must allow me this. See, Victor, I think Terry Newman touched a raw nerve here today. But I say this to you. See, listen.
You're talking about a joke.
Okay, now listen, Victor.
Which no other country has.
Victor, see.
And you are talking about the war with China?
Victor.
Come on.
Victor,
Let's talk about peace.
Victor, see. Every country, sometimes countries like China have an exaggerated sense of self-importance. There's no problem. You do. The question here is this. See, let's look at things very logically, Dan. There would be no war if there was no China. If China had not egged on Pakistan, we would not have bashed up Pakistan. If China had not egged on Iran, you wouldn't have bashed up Iran. Right? They got bashed because China was like trying to do this little puppetry behind the scenes, puppetry.
And I just say you are living in parallel universe. You do not belong to the earth.
No, I'm bringing you down to earth.
You belong to the outer space.
Dan, we see through we're just a very frank channel. Dan,
I want to bring this back to some Middle East puppetry. I'm gonna avoid, if you don't mind, I'll avoid the Pakistan. I'll avoid the Pakistan issue. I'll avoid the the India-China tensions. That's beyond my pay grade. But I want to bring this back to Middle East puppetry. And I'm just really sick of every time hearing Israel as an aggressor. Israel is constantly in war. The radical axis here, the Iran axis, and unfortunately, it has its backers, its very cynical backers in Moscow and in Beijing here, instigates wars against Israel through proxies. And then when Israel is forced to retaliate, then of course the PR machine comes in and says Israel is an aggressor. Israel is fighting all of these wars. Israel is defending itself against aggression. Israel had a perfectly good ceasefire in place on October 6, 2023. Israel would love nothing more than to have trade and positive relations with Tehran like we did prior to 1979. Israel actually got out. The world completely forgets. Israel got out of Gaza in 2005 with its unilateral withdrawal in the name of promoting peace. And all we have in return are radical proxy and terror groups backed by Tehran, constantly pushing against peace and against Israel and against the coming together of the region. Terry is absolutely correct in that the Abraham Accords, that we were on the verge of a 2.0 of the Abraham Accords. The Saudis were on the verge of signing an accord with Israel that would have completely ended and made past moot issue the entire Israeli-Arab conflict, because the Arab world, by and large, is sick of conflicts. It's certainly sick of the conflict with Israel. And the Arab world completely understands that Israel is not the aggressor nor the problem in the region. It is Iran. They understand that Israel is the engine of innovation in the region, and that's why they want to have economic and research and military ties with Israel. So partly to boost their own economies as they shift away from oil, but partly because they understand that Iran is the aggressor. So while they have to play this double game that they always do, where they stand on their stages and with a half smirk criticize Israel's aggression on Iran's sovereign territory, they're all raising glasses and cheering.
I'll give a quick word to Alison.
Bully of the region.
Alison, you heard Victor earlier. Your thoughts on what he said?
So I think I'm going to follow Dan's example a little bit here and try to stick more to the Middle East. But what I will say is that there's the idea of who can intervene and help each side militarily, and then who can intervene and help each side economically. And to an extent, there's diplomacy and political help, but that's not nearly as impactful as, say, economic endeavors. I would also like to point out, which is slightly tangential from what you prompted, is just thinking about where this goes next. As our Israeli colleague pointed out, the future of Israeli-Saudi relationships is going to be very telling in terms of what direction this takes. I think how Turkey responds to this and how they relate to these events is going to be very telling. To a degree, also, Russia has some influence in this region with the various players that are involved. They have been close in the past to both Iran and Israel. And then the other thing I'd flag is also the domestic issues. There's political turmoil domestically in the U.S., Israel, and Iran that won't be definitive factors in how these countries move forward, but they will put some constraints and shape government response, because we're going to see several leaders getting pulled in different directions in terms of domestic demands and also international needs in terms of how do they need to respond militarily on those.
Yes, I would say at the very end, and this is not directed at you, Victor, for no country, every country has economic problems. I'm very, very aware of the problems China has. We empathize with your situation, your degrowth. It is entirely your problem. I'm sure you'll deal with it. But instigating trouble anywhere else in the world does not make any country greater. This applies to all nations. You cannot be a global instigator and get away with it. I thank you all very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's been a sort of sense of tiredness that I feel. There's a sense of tiredness that there is with conflict in the Middle East. It might help actually work towards a resolution. What do you think? Let me know. Write to me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।